Tony Hook, our Director of Client Success with UCM Practice Growth Systems. Welcome back to the podcast, Tony.
There we go. I think I've been on it the most. Next to you. Next to you, of course. I'm the
That's
most
right. Yeah. So
the
we're
biggest guy.
excited. We're excited about what we're talking about today because this is something that has been in the works for a while. We've been talking about some of the concepts of this, but we really put it together into a book. And this is what we're talking about today is a new book that we've recently released. It's called 7 Growth Stages of Upper Cervical Practice. And the subtitle of this book is How to Grow Your Practice and Help More People Thrive. And that's really what it is. No matter where you are in practice, how can you help more people in your community to thrive and really get to improve their health, bring hope and healing to sick and suffering people, right? That's what it's about. And so this was a book that, we've been thinking about, we've been talking about, we put it all together in one place, and we're really excited about it. Really what it comes down to is, why did we write this book, Tony? What was the reason why we said, this is something that's needed within upper cervical practice?
Because, as we have been doing our podcasts, as we've been serving our clients, over more than a decade, we see that it's almost predictable, as to how they're going along. Matter of fact, that first point there on the screen, upper cervical practice grow in clear, predictable stages. And it's like, it's very similar sticking points. It's very similar markers for success to go from one stage to the next, and obviously there's some variances between these, but generally speaking, there's different stages. These really are these stages. I mean, it's not like we didn't just make these things up. We just see a pattern that's happening. And there's the same, doctors face similar roadblocks at each of these stages. So like, if we address these things, it frees you up to grow, right? And so ultimately, the reason for the book then is to identify these things and figure out where you're at, first off, identify and relate to some of the common problem spots for that stage. And then, okay, now what do I do about this? And so,
Exactly.
okay, great. If I want to keep growing, I want to serve more people in my community, these are the things to focus on. Because what can happen is, I want to say this too real quick. Let's say you're talking to a doctor who's got a couple locations and they're talking about what has been jamming for them. Well, you haven't even hired your associate yet. And so you're not there. The tools and skills and things that they've been working on, some of them may translate, sure, but you may find that it's not the most important things for you to do if you try to replicate everything that doctor's doing, because
Right.
You're not there yet. It's like baby steps. Like, what's the next logical step for me to take today? And then what is it 6 months from now or whatever? That's the purpose of this book.
Exactly. And so that's, really, this is a practical roadmap for you to be able to have sustainable growth, right? It's this idea that, okay, first of all, identify what stage you're in, and then say, okay, in this stage, based on all of our experience, based on all of our surveys, based on all the clients we've worked with, 12 years of studying upper cervical practice, and just developing this, writing our other book, Upper Cervical Practice Mastery, 2 different versions of that. We've seen this over and over and over, and these are the 7 stages, and it's just a universal truth that is relevant to upper cervical practice. And so we wanted to really define these stages so that doctors can say, okay, I'm in this stage. What do I do next? Right? Because that's the key. And again, it's very predictable what you need to do to move from one stage to the next. And so let's talk about the 7 practice growth stages that are broken down in the book. The first stage is when you open your practice and you're in solo practice, meaning one doctor in the practice, and you're collecting less than $20,000 per month, right? This is really you're just getting started in practice. This is usually, at least when you're just getting started in practice. Now, some doctors, they get stuck here and they never move beyond this first stage. And there's reasons for that we've seen. And we'll get more of that in a second. The second stage is when you break through that 20K per month but you're still in solo practice. That's that second stage. So you're getting a little bit more stability, but still in solo practice, moving into the third stage, which is when you go into a 2-doctor practice, right? So this is typically a doctor with an associate. Sometimes it's a husband-wife team, right? But it's a 2-doctor practice. The fourth stage is an associate-driven practice. This is when you have when you have 3 total doctors in the practice or more, right? So it's typically it's a clinic director with 2 associates, 3 associates, whatever it is. That's practice growth stage 4. Practice growth stage 5 is when you move from 1 location to 2 locations, right? A 2-location practice. And then practice growth stage 6 is when you have 3 locations or more. And then the last stage is the transitioning out of practice stage, which every doctor will get into at some point. That is the last stage of upper cervical practice when you're transitioning out of practice. And so want to talk about a little bit, a few of these stages. And really the first one we want to focus in on is the very first stage, right? That first stage, under $20,000 per month in solo practice. This is a stage where we see a lot of people get stuck, right? It's a place where we see doctors who get stuck here for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and working with these doctors, we're working with a lot of doctors in practice growth stage 1. What are some of the things, Tony, that you've seen with doctors who are in this stage who, well, I want you to talk about 2 different groups. One is the group that we've worked with, that we've seen breakthrough with, right? Where they've been in this stage for years or even to decades, and they break through and they move from out of this stage into practice growth stage 2 or even 3 or whatever relatively quickly, versus a group of doctors who are in practice growth stage 1. We work with them with similar tools, but they don't have that breakthrough. What is the difference between those 2 docs that you've seen?
Right. And I mean, this is so important, right? Because, and some of you listening right now or watching this, so you're past this. But I'm telling you what, you can relate to some of these things, right? And you can be
Yep,
you could be mentoring somebody. So, I would say pay attention to these things too. But obviously that it's so important because this is a practice that's the most vulnerable, right? And
absolutely.
this is the stage where some people throw in the towel. They say,
Yes,
"Hey, I can't do this," and the business fails. And that's a sad day because we want more upper cervical
exactly.
chiropractors in the
Exactly.
world. The world needs more. Anyway, so let's take a look at this. So the docs who have breakthroughs in this, what are the markers of that? Um, the biggest thing that I see is the mindset. I would say mindset and habits. So having intentional focus on minding your mind and intentional focus on your day-to-day habits, blocking your time, focusing, prioritizing things, scheduling yourself to where like even before you even get to the office, like having routines, having habits, like and then of course during office hours as well, but like making sure that you're intentional about those things and minding your mind. So like making sure that you stay motivated, stay driven, stay focused on the mission, right? Those are key things. Um, Oftentimes, doctors that are having these breakthroughs, they have a tenacity, they have a hunger, they have this attitude of, I have to make this work.
Mm,
Not like, well, I hope it does. Or like,
right.
I need to, maybe can we just get some ads rolling? No, we don't want to do that. We don't want that. We want to have a doctor who's intentional about it, going like, what can I do? What can I do today? Tell me what to focus on. Like they're coachable, they're hungry, right? And they implement. And they're not. It's kind of like when you have the patient that comes to you and is like, doc, what do I got to do? And you're like, hey, keep your appointments, mind what you eat, mind your thoughts, even, thoughts, traumas, toxins, you get into those things and the patient's just eating it up. They're hungry for it, right? They're making their appointments. They're like, how do I hold better? And they're excited when they do. They're just engaged and they're intentional and they're owning it. Those are the docs that make it every time,
Yeah,
not some of the time, every time.
every time.
Because how could you not? I mean, like it's that's like most of the battle is having
And
those things.
and ultimately what those docs need is a guide. They just need a guide. They need somebody to
Yeah.
come alongside them and
Mhm.
show them the way. And
And
that's what we're,
accountability.
and that's what we've been able to do with so many docs who do have
Yeah.
that breakthrough. We have, we call it our 180-day breakthrough for a reason, right?
Right.
If you
Right.
apply these things and you make these changes, because that's the key,
Hmm.
right?
That's it.
It's will you change or not? That's going to
Yeah.
be the difference between whether or
Yeah.
not you'll have a breakthrough if you're in practice growth stage 1 or not.
You know,
So many docs in practice growth stage 1 get stuck in doing what they've always done and they're unwilling to change.
right. Right. Yeah. If you're familiar with anybody's ever familiar with Dave Ramsey, so the
Yeah.
Ramsey solutions, he talks about the 7 baby steps to getting out of debt and investing stuff like that.
Mhm.
And he mentions he's like, well, I got people that come in and they do it and they say, oh, Dave, it doesn't work. He's like, you can't do ish. You
Yep.
can't kind of sort of do it. You can't do ish. It's like if you're going to be in, let's do it. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's get accountability. Let's work on these things, and you have to implement, right? Like that's the key. You have to be all in and do it. It's just like a patient. If a patient came in for just a couple of visits and go, it doesn't work, or they're going to apply some of the things that you mentioned to them, but they're going to keep eating junk food and popping pills. Well, that's going to be working against you, against the healing of the body. It's the same way if you don't have the right habits and mindset and willingness to go at things, it's going to be working against the growth of the practice. Now, which leads us to the whole like, who are the people who don't make it? It's because they're not focused. They don't implement. They don't accept accountability sometimes, or sometimes it's fear or doubt, right? Because it's the fear and doubt that it really is the reason why there's not an implementation. Um, so a lot of times, too often, there's not a accurate valuation of what the doctor brings to the table. Ergo, they're not charging enough, or they're not charging for everything that they do. Maybe
Yep.
because they just feel like, well, I don't know if that I give that great of a correction. I don't know if I feel confident to do these care plans, or I don't feel confident to charge X amount, or just those kinds of things. And so it comes from a lack of confidence and self evaluation to be able to say, yeah, like what I deliver, this is life changing. This is worth it. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things that prevent somebody from growing, and almost in other stages too. Those same things can creep back in for
Yes.
any of the stages.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening to this and you've got a couple associates, by the way, maybe they're struggling with some of these things
Yep.
because it's their practice within the practice, so to speak, right? And so maybe
Yep.
they're starting to struggle. I tell you what, any doctor who's coming out of school, like there's a degree of it in there somewhere of like, am I delivering the goods? I don't
Right.
know. And so that conveys over to patient education and being able to execute as a doctor.
Absolutely. And I mean, and the reason why I wanted to make sure we talk about this stage is because, I mean, based on our survey data, there's still about 23% of all
Yeah,
upper cervical practices that
that's
are
one out of
in,
four.
yeah, that are in practice growth stage 1, right? So
Yeah,
it's a big chunk, right? I mean, literally 1 out of
yeah,
4. So you're
right.
you're looking at hundreds of practices that are in this stage, and it's a stage that it limits the capacity of upper cervical in general, right? Like if every single one of those practices were to double, the difference it would make in those communities and in as and upper cervical
Yeah,
in general would be significant. And so
yeah,
we love helping doctors in this stage. We love helping them get that breakthrough because it is absolutely life changing for not only the doctor and his patients, but the community at large and upper cervical, right? I mean, this is when a doctor can go from collecting $15,000 a month to collecting $40,000 a month and hiring an associate. What's happened? Well, that practice has doubled the amount of people that they're helping. It's now has another doctor who can now
it's
work
stable.
in that practice, right? That community is better for it, and upper cervical is better for it across the board. So
Yeah,
the impact you can make by getting in a practice growth stage 1 practice to have a breakthrough is huge.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I wanted to just talk about some other general things that we've seen that that are common, no matter what stage you're in. But these are some common mistakes to avoid. And they, a lot of them can be related to some of those early stages, but not necessarily. I mean, one of the things that we see is sometimes doctors make a decision early on in their practice life where when it comes to their location, that's poor, right? Like they have a poor location decision, whether it's
Hmm.
whether it's you know being inside another practice, for instance, limiting your ability to grow or have capacity within there, or limiting your ability to really market effectively or brand you effectively, whatever it is, thinking through those kinds of things when it comes to your location is important. Do you have the ability to draw from all around you? And this is why, we love working with doctors who are just getting started in practice too, right? When you're coming out of an associate position, you're starting your own practice, you're coming out of school, whatever it is, and we can help you with our Start Right program to really get a great location and help you to establish that right up front. That's huge. But
Right.
sometimes doctors have to, realize, what, this location is just not right. It's in order for us to grow beyond where we are, we've got to think about changing what we have. And sometimes it's the practice is not in the right size building, right? Maybe the
Sure.
building that you're in is too big for you, right? Maybe at one point your practice was different than it is now, and you have to reduce your overhead in order to make the finances of the practice work, right? Making location decisions can be really impactful, and sometimes they're really difficult because it can be emotional as well when you've invested in a building or a location or a particular space.
Yep.
Another thing to be thinking about, common mistakes to avoid, is just your branding and marketing plan, right? Really having clear focus on what you're doing, how you're presenting yourself to the community. Is it all just DIY, or are you just trying to trying to piece something together, or do you have a real clear plan? What we've been doing over the years with doctors is developing a marketing plan so you don't just skip it, and maybe throw some money at marketing if you get a chance to. And another big mistake to avoid is not hiring a CA. We've seen this even recently with a doc that we've worked with that for years, who has finally hired a CA, and it's been a game changer for this particular doctor. And
Hmm.
so making sure that you don't buy into this idea of, oh, you know what, I got to keep my overhead as low as
Right.
possible. And a CA is an investment. It's an investment. And you've got to invest in that CA early and begin to train them up, because that is a very common mistake that will keep you small.
What's cool is I've seen, where a doctor's pulled the trigger on a CA, right? Like we've maybe, I think of a couple people I've helped to hire one, right? We just define the role, what are they going to be doing? And you start to create the position and defining what it is they're going to be doing. And you can start to, you are intentional about, hey, these are all the things that I wish I had time to do, but I'm not doing. Well, let me create a position where that's part of what they do. So then when you hire them on, they're doing the things that you should have been doing this whole time, and that's their like main operating procedures. So
Yeah,
like it become like you said, it becomes an investment. When you are at having your first CA or your second or third, like you just that you tweak the role. It's not just like a cookie cutter CA role necessarily, but maybe it's you want to you should be doing videos. You should be grabbing those video testimonials or doing some of your own organic social media posts or those kinds of things. Coordinating in-office events. And you're like, I know I should be doing that. I know it'd be a lot better if I had that. But then you don't have that, and so you design the role to do it.
that's right. Yeah, maybe it's a new patient coordinator role that needs to be developed, right? To really focus in on your new patients, and that making sure that they are getting taken care of the way that they should be, right? Whatever it is, it's making sure that you're hiring at the right times is an important part of moving from one stage to the next, whether it's hiring CAs, whether it's hiring associates, whatever it is. But don't put off that hiring. And then some other things, we've already mentioned a bit, but breakthroughs in mindset with both mindset and habits, right? At every stage, you have to develop different mindsets and different habits, right? At the first stage, we've talked about already that there's a lot of times there's a limitation of understanding of the value of the care that you're providing, right? And that you have to get that concept really built. But as you grow, a lot of times a sticking point for doctors in practice growth stage 2, when you're collecting more than $20,000 a month, but you're in solo practice, is having a mindset shift to move from I'm the doctor to I'm the leader, right?
Right.
I'm a mentor. I'm
Mentor.
someone who's
Hmm.
going to pour into an associate. I have something that I can give to another
Yep.
doctor, right? Having that kind of a mindset shift and saying, you know what, if I again, if we define the role effectively, we can take somebody and put them into that role and they can thrive in it. And it's possible and it works if you do it well. And so helping doctors to have that mindset shift as well, that mindset breakthrough where it's like, yeah, you can do this. You can have an effective associate program, right? You can do it. But it takes a mindset shift and it takes a habit shift when it comes to even like developing the role, right? And investing that time in really making sure that you have clear expectations for that associate.
Hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
And no matter where you are, you want to celebrate the wins and keep pushing forward, right? Be excited about what you've accomplished, but know that there's more, right? I always think about like, man, you're just getting started, right? You've got a lot more that you can give. You have a lot more that you can contribute to your community if you just keep moving forward and look to the next stage and say, okay, how do I get there? How do I get to that next stage? How do I continue to grow and move forward?
And that's something I want to chat about just real quick here in regards to that keep pushing forward. I mean, celebrating wins is huge. Like we always start our meetings for UCM. What are the
Yep.
wins? I do that
Yep.
for my team meetings. What are the wins for the week? Because it just keeps it alive, keeps the energy going. Team building. That's all good stuff. But that second part there on that point, keep pushing forward. Complacency kills.
Yep.
You're and complacent. That's what when you become complacent, content even, right? Just yeah, things are good. You've been at 150 patient visits a week for the last 5 years. Things are good. You've got in your mind you're like, oh, I've got a 4-week waiting list, which by the way is not good. That means you are not able to meet demand. Not
Yep.
good for your community. And so like become complacent because you're comfortable with where things are at. That's dangerous, man. Like that's where
Yep.
bad habits can kind of creep in, possibly. But also it's like, man, you've got so much more to give, right? Like, is that it? Have you arrived? You're in the promised land now, or have you found out some things that you need to pass on? Man, our world needs more like young docs coming out of school that can be shown the ropes and learn learn how to run their own business or become experts in adjustments and in their technique and proficiency in that and advancing the cause and doing research and publishing things, all the things that help to push things forward. So it's like asking yourself the question, okay, well, what's next with the mission of upper cervical as a whole? Like, what's next? Asking yourself that question, dreaming a little bit about that, not becoming complacent.
That's it. That's it. So at every stage, you have to
There's
fight
something.
against complacency, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
when you are and that's why like practice growth stage 2, when you're collecting more than $20,000 per month in a solo practice, it's the most dangerous stage, right? Because it is the stage where doctors can get it's the easiest to fall into complacency in that stage because the bills are paid, you're taking care of people, you know, it's easy to feel like I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm
You got
good,
some
right?
systems in place.
Yeah.
It's flowing.
And I mean, I've always encouraged doctors like, hey, that stage is actually the most vulnerable stage because it just takes one something happening, right? On this podcast recently, we had Dr. Joey Miles on here, had to have heart surgery,
Heart
was out
attack.
of his
Yeah.
practice for 2 months, came out of
Yeah.
nowhere, right?
Yeah.
I went out mountain biking, broke my neck, right? Your practice
Yeah.
is completely and totally dependent on you. And so
Right.
it just takes one thing happening.
Yep.
Someone gets sick, someone gets hurt, something happens, and the practice is gone, right?
We've
So
all heard stories. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
So thinking that through and having clear picture of how can I go from practice growth stage 2 to practice growth stage 3, where you actually have another doctor in that practice, the practice can keep going without you, is huge. And that kind of brings us to this last thing we wanted to talk about, and it's stage 7. As we mentioned, that last stage of upper cervical practice, everyone goes to. Not everyone goes through all 7 stages, obviously, but everyone goes to practice growth stage 7, right? Everyone is going to transition out of practice. So, are you going to do it wisely? Are you going to be thinking about it? Are you going to have a
Hmm.
plan in place? You're going to have a plan in place early, right? Are you building a legacy that's going to outlive your adjusting career, right? There is
Right.
going to be a time where you're not adjusting people anymore, right? And so, are you thinking about that? Are you mentoring others to keep that mission alive, so that your community can continue to have access to high quality upper cervical care? That's
Hmm.
what you need to be thinking about. And that's something that, again, we love working with doctors on, that really help them develop that, because there can be a lot of different steps involved in that. What you
Yeah.
don't want to do is be 70 years old and then start thinking about it,
Right.
right? That's not the time. You got to be and be in solo practice at 70 and say, you know what, maybe I should hire an associate now, right? It's
Yeah.
like you got to be thinking about these things sooner. You got to be thinking, like, what is the next step?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I've known many doctors, 65 plus, age, start to finally think about bringing somebody on, go through the process of finding somebody to come on as an associate, get them trained, and it didn't work out. And now they're back to square one, and now that's 2, 3 years have gone by. And it's like, oh
Yeah,
crap. Like it can take time to find that right fit if you're trying to raise somebody up to take over the practice.
yeah,
Because
and
you need a non,
especially if you
they
have
need to be one part entrepreneur. That's
yeah,
it,
and
you know.
especially if you have 40 years of bad habits that you have to kind of work through, right?
There's
That
that.
develops. You haven't really been investing in yourself as a leader, or you're
Yeah.
not really a great mentor yet. You don't have clear vision of what this role looks like. You don't have
Yeah.
clear expectations, whatever it is, right? There's a lot of things that go into this, and so be thinking about it early. Be investigating these things early is going
Yep.
to help you. And so, and just to tell you also, the book is extremely practical. It's a short little
Yeah.
book. It's
We
going to
pared
help
it
you.
down.
Yeah, we pared it down to really just the things that we think are really, really beneficial for you to know. Number one, which stage you're in. Number two, what are the key things in that stage, right? Simple as that. And then from there, we point you in the direction of different tools that we have on the website, whether it's free checklists or job scorecards or hiring templates, or just different things that we have available for free on the website. But we have so much on the website. I hear this all the time. We have so much on the website. Sometimes it's hard to know where things are, right? And so be able to point you in the right direction based on whatever stage you're in. And then really just helping you with like step-by-step practice growth strategies, right? Here's what you should be doing. I'm pointing you to the direction of if you want us to guide you, we'd love to help you. We'd love to help you with an action plan, wherever stage of growth you're in. We'd like to be able to help you and work with you to get you to the place you want to grow to. And so
Mhm.
you can grab your copy of the book and access our free resources at ucmgrow.com. And if you want to talk about your practice, schedule a free strategy session, right? You
Yeah.
can go to the website again, ucmgrow.com. Just click on the start growing button, schedule a time to meet with us. We can talk with you about your practice, where you are, whatever stage you're in, and talk about how you can grow to the next stage.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to come alongside you, support you every step of the way. And, or if nothing else, point you in the right direction.
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
it. That's what we're about. We're about helping you grow your practice. And as we always say, go team upper cervical.